Hi guys, in this video I'll be sharing our curriculum picks for our 8th grader for this school year. If you're interested in some of the things that I considered when getting ready for the school year, I actually have it as a separate video because it was making this video a little bit too long. But I did consider, what it is she wanted to do, moving on into like after high school. Also, our state laws, our district laws, how it is, what credits we can and can't do if it is that's something that she wants to do, and how it is her curriculum can get her prepared for that, but also how does, not just hers, but my other two daughters, how all of their curriculum kind of goes together to allow time for us to, kind of set up for a successful high school, 8th grade, getting ready for high school. But anyway, let me turn the camera now. All right, so first we have her personal planner, and I have a planner for all of them this year. So this year I chose to go with individual planners. And to the front, I have listed all of the subjects that each of them are doing with an estimate amount, the estimated length of time that, like their school day would look like, so that at a glance, they kind of have an idea of what their school day is going to look like in hours. Of course, that's if everything works as planned. It may or may not work out, but at least they can see it. And then at the bottom, I have all of the other things that they do, including like electives and stuff, so that they can also see those, and sometimes that comes in, so that that comes into play, so that when they're finished with school, they have, it's like some form of control as to what it is they choose to do with their free time when school is finished. Then the rest of the planner, they actually get to use that to fill in things that they plan to do. So they may choose the day, and they may plan to pick 2 or 3 things from their extracurricular activities once mommy and daddy isn't doing anything with them, and they may attempt to do that. So that's their planner. All of them is going to use a planner this year. And I did choose to get her a new Bible, and this is so pretty. She was using the NLT version before, and that is her. She probably always going to keep that if she can, but this, I decided to get her NIV version as well. I know versions is a thing. I just happen to like the NIV version, and I find this to be so pretty. The words are not like too fine, right? So that's that. And then she have this devotional for girls here. Now, she honestly has not used this as yet. She has only brisk through it. So it does, give a little bit of motivational pieces, and then it follows that up with a scripture reference. But as I said, she has not used this devotional for girls as yet. All right, so that's that set up. All right, so for the subjects for credit, we are going to be doing one for science, one for logic, and a half credit for health. Now this is based on, it's structured around what she's interested in, but also, what is allowed in our state and also the district. In our district, a half a credit for health is required to graduate high school, and I do try to follow our district just in case. I've always tried to do that in our homeschool journey. For science, the reason why I went with earth science, there were several reasons why we ended up on earth science. The first thing is we were using In God's Design before, and it just so happened that earth science was the only one that she did not do. So I was actually planning on her just doing earth science using the In God's Design set this year. But the colleges that we are looking at, 2 sciences are required, but 3 is recommended. So I decided to go with Dive Science, since they have it built in where you can either use this for middle school, where you just do you just follow through, skip if you would like, do what it is they're really interested to, and you can, kind of come back to it at a later date. Or if you wanted to assign a high school credit to this in earth design, then you want to you want to follow the program, like the teacher's guide. And you also want to, at the end of every quarter, they either need to do a science fair type project, which I already researched what that looks like, and I found this website, sciencebuddies.org. They have like about 1,000 and something different projects that falls under the different branches of science. So we checked out some under, I believe, is environmental science, or they can choose to do an essay type paper on a topic that they learned in that quarter, right? And she may lean in that direction, since she is a child that really enjoys writing and anything to do with writing, like anything. So we might lean in that direction. With that in mind, that also determined why I did not buy the kit, the lab kit. Now, I did look at it, and from Natier's workshop, it is pretty pricey. It's $270. But if you look at what it is in there and you compare the prices, actually, you know, pretty close to what you would pay if you decided to buy everything individually. I did actually check it out, and the markup is really not that bad, right? But because I know that this is not something that she would thoroughly enjoy, she would enjoy investing that time into other areas that is more of interest to her. She is going to do most of her science using the video labs. Now, I did get a scientific calculator, and I also did start putting things together in a box so that a few of the labs she would have the option to do, you know, physically if she so choose to. But for the most part, we are going to follow the labs and definitely follow the teacher's guide to a T, and then work on the essays, 2 to 3 page essays at the end of every quarter, right? So that's for science. For logic, she is thoroughly enjoying this, the art of argument. This is going to lend to a very interesting year. She has already started breaking down the arguments or conversations that her sisters are having and finding the fallacies, because even though we are only at the beginning of the book, she has already, you know, skimmed through it and pulled out the, I think it's 28 fallacies, and have started applying it. So it's going to lend an interesting year. For that reason, that's why I'm choosing to do this with her. I'm just hoping that I don't keep her back. But if I do find that I am doing that, I would, you know, kind of have to step away, because it is something that she is able to do on her own. So you have the teacher's guide, and the only difference between the teacher's guide and the student book that I can find so far is that the teacher's guide has, you know, like the suggested answers in there. So we are really enjoying this in the art of argument. She enjoys this probably as much as she does her writing. And then for health, I landed on Life Pack. This is suggested to be finished within a semester. It is 5. The books are really thin. It's 5 books. I already kind of went through, read up on how it is to, their suggestion on how it is to grade it, and how it's laid out. And each unit has like a self-test at the end, and then it has like a life pack test. And then the teacher's guide has the answers to all of that, but then it has an alternate test for each unit. So in case they don't do well on their life pack test, they can take that alternate test. Now the alternate test is not in the unit book. The alternate test is not included in each of the units, because I guess they're hoping that they can just pass the life pack test. So that's that. Now, this is something where if it is a topic that she feels uncomfortable with, we will sit down and do it together, because she is 12, right? She is a mature 12-year-old, but there are topics where, you know, she would prefer if we sat down together and do it and discuss back and forth. So for those, we will be doing together. I mentioned this in the short video that I released prior to this, that this year I am going to be a little bit more involved in her high school, as of, even more than I was when she was in the 7th grade, because even though she is pretty independent, I am trying to get a good grip of what this whole journey to high school is, not just for her, but because it's new to me, and also to prepare for my other two. So just a little side note. So sometimes I'll do this with her, sometimes I won't. I'm doing this with her right now. We'll see how long we do it together. And then, well, for the most part, outside of Google Earth Pro, when I downloaded that for her to do the map work, she is doing this so far on her own. So for language arts, we have wordly wise vocabulary, and I'll be using this for both vocabulary and spelling this year. Then we have fixed grammar, reading comprehension by the Critical Thinking Company, and we have writing rhetoric. So for vocabulary, we are going to be using wordly wise 8 after trying out some of the samples that was available online on different curriculums that I was looking at. For vocabulary, I decided that book 8 was a good fit for her. It was between this and word roots, but we decided to go with this, and I'm happy with it. Now, how I intend to use this for vocabulary and spelling is every other week is when she will be tested. She will complete a lesson, and then the second week, the intention is that she use that week to kind of go over her spelling words, practice, you know, if she needs to practice the spelling and the vocabulary. And then on that Friday, that second Friday, I would first give her a spelling test, a quick spelling test, and then she would get the test booklet and do the multiple choice test based on that week. So that's how we're going to use this. She's going to complete this, which has a answer key. So this answer key is actually for this book. So the answers for this is in here. And then you have the test booklet with the multiple choice test, and then you have the test answer key for the test booklet at the back. So that is the wordly wise. Then fixed grammar, she is on book 4. She has done book 3 and now she's doing book 4. She actually did not start with 1 and 2, right? And this is going really well for her. Then reading detective, reading comprehension, she actually did A1 last year. We've decided we're going to go through with this series because she's right on, based on the recommended grades, it's lining up really well. So she is going to be doing that. Now for writing, we are on book 5 using writing rhetoric. Now she really enjoys this curriculum, and we are at the point where I really wished that I had discovered this earlier on in her homeschool journey. This says book 5 and is recommended for grades 5 and 6. And personally, I'm starting to be concerned about using a book that is recommended for grade 5 and 6 in, you know, like the upper grades. So this is actually going to be the last book that we are going to use in this series, but she really likes this. She does really well with this system, and I wish that I had discovered this earlier on. I said that already. However, what I did do, because she likes that ProGym system, I went hunting for different things different curriculums that I think uses all different, I believe it's 12 or 14 stages of this ProGym style of writing. One of them is this I think this is like one activity. I don't know. I honestly don't completely understand all of IEW setup, but I believe that this is just one activity book or study unit or something like that. But anyway, this one uses all the stages of the progymnasmata. That's how I say it, and I know I'm not saying it right, but it has activities using every stage in that ProGym system. Right? So this is something that after the school year, she already skimmed through it. She will be able to work through. Another thing that I did is there is another curriculum that uses all stages of the ProGym system in every single, like at every grade level. I took a look at that because I have not seen it on YouTube, but I need to make sure that there would be no issue if I was to like share it on here first before I do like a flip through of that curriculum. But anyway, so that's what I did so that we can kind of get an idea of the entire system before, I guess, moving on to something else. Now, I was looking at a video by Memoria Press as well, because I was considering their video option for writing, not their live option. That's just way off my price range. And something that one of the professors said was that if the student should have a very good grasp of refutation and confirmation before moving on to the different stages of progymnasmata. Please excuse my pronunciation, right? So because of that, that makes me happy that this is where we are closing this off. But as I said, because it's a style of writing that she enjoys, she's going to have this as something that she can work through. I believe, in addition to IEW, which is something that I went back and forth with, I believe maybe the upper levels of writing ease does follow that as well. But I have to do some more research. But anyway, so she is going to be doing writing rhetoric for writing. It's a curriculum that she really enjoys. But unfortunately, it's also going to be the last year that she is going to be using this, which we discovered it earlier. All right, so we're still in the language arts. And this year we are going to be doing 2 study guides, the Golden Goblet in the first semester and the Giver in the second semester. And I'll get into that in a little bit. And she wanted to go a little bit deeper into poetry. Writing is one out of 2 areas that she is really interested in taking her studies further in. So because she doesn't really like poetry, she wanted to give it a little bit of a shot, outside of just whatever poetry is included in her writing and her whatever writing and grammar curriculum we were using throughout the years. Outside of that, she was never really a fan of poetry. But anyway, so I picked up this book, Poetry Matters by Ralph Fletcher. This is not necessarily a guide on how to write poetry. What he does is that he shares his opinion on why it is he believes kids dislike poetry. And because they are being taught in schools that if it is they don't write poetry using the correct format and correct styles, that it is wrong. And I actually listened to a teacher on YouTube, a guy, who was basically saying the same thing. Now, I didn't have her listen to that video, but she really did enjoy this to the extent where this author has 3 other books that I found that is on writing and encouraging kids to write. And we actually picked those up for her as well. They look very similar to for her personal reading, because she really likes any resource that she can get a hand on, like to help her with her creative writing. So anyway, so she did this. The intention was, which we just finished this. The intention was for her to spend a couple of weeks. We're in our 3rd week of school, just going through poetry and reading up on this stuff, and then moving on to the literature guides, which she has finished. So I'm just sharing this as something that we did to start off the year. She is now attempting to write her own, simple poetry on her own, and she can refer back to these if she so pleased. This poetry comprehension book was not for her to actually write in it, but just to read through it and get whatever tips that she can, glean from here. This is the same company that we use for her social studies, her history and civics workbook. So she went through those, and these would be I guess considered below level poetry. They're poetry for young people, but it's just to introduce her. So she read through these. Robert Frost, Langston Hughes, Emily Dickinson, and Maya Angelou. So that is what she did for poetry. And for the literature guides, we are first going to be doing the Golden Goblet. Now, it's recommended, we're using the Progeny Press guide. I was between this one and the guides by Great Works, and I had to take a look at both of them, and she decided she wanted to use Progeny Press, which will work out really well because I'm considering using a couple of their guides, which gives a quarter credit per semester if you do one of the guides. I'm considering those for high school, so this will kind of expose us to that. But she likes this, and she likes the fact that it references scripture, right? That's her words, right? So we are going to be doing the Golden Goblet first. The pre-reading activities is what's recommended to be done, of course, before you read the Golden Goblet. And that's definitely the route that I would take if I was using this with my younger 2, especially if they're moving from reading a lot of fairy books to something like the Golden Goblet. But she actually read through this already, and, she's just waiting on me. But I have listened to up to chapter 8 on Audible. It's actually free if you have Audible, this book. So I'm on chapter 8, so we are going to go ahead and get started with this guy come next week, God spare. We are going to start with just looking at some documentaries on ancient Egypt and all of that before we actually get into the guide itself. So this is going to take about 8 to 10 weeks, and then when we are finished with that, we are going to be doing The Giver. She actually read The Giver a couple years ago, But the reason why I chose The Giver is because it's, you know, it's adequate for her grade, which is not absolutely important, but because I wanted to start introducing my younger two into going deeper into understanding books. So by doing The Giver, this is going to be easy enough to get them gently started with, right? My 8 and 10-year-old, or 3rd and 5th grader. My 3rd grader, she can do, you know, work a couple levels above her grade. So this is going to work perfectly for both of them. And that is going to fit in nicely, where I would just need to listen to The Giver once, and I can do, you know, the literature guides, you know, different literature guides, but with all of them. So that is our plan for literature, and well, what we did for poetry this year. All right, so this year she is focusing on American history, and she's continuing with this American history series that she started in the 7th grade, just picking up from where she left off. Some areas she just reads the excerpt that it has there and completes the activity. Other areas, like this one, she has chosen to look further into some of the people that was mentioned in that Revolutionary War. So that is what she is doing. On the days that she is using this, that is paired with this, it would be 45 minutes, and she would spend 25 minutes reading. Right now she's on the red book, the first book, and then she would spend the other 20 minutes working through the workbooks. And on the alternate day that she has history, we are reading, she would do, we would read Howard Zinn for 25 minutes, which goes really slowly because we would be talking a lot. So we would spend 25 minutes doing that, and then she would spend the other 20 minutes doing a little bit of her civics, right? So that's how we kind of try to work through the history on the days that we are, you know, life works out perfectly and we are actually able to get history done. All right, so I found this American history book, and it is from a Christian perspective, but it doesn't refer back to actual scriptures, because I know that, you know, there's so many different angles that you can come at with history. So I just wanted to mention that. This is American History by Thomas Kidd, and this one is 1492 to 1877. This one is 1877 to present. And I think that is one of the reasons why it drew my attention, because of, you know, the time periods. They're not exactly the same, but it's pretty close to how it's laid out here. So this is 1865 to present, and this one will be 1877, 2 years later to present. But anyway, so she's on this red book, and as I said, she reads this for 25 minutes and then move on to the workbook. So she's not necessarily going in here to find information to do the workbook. She's just reading along, and hopefully that makes sense, right? So that is history, and we are using Howard Zinn right now. We started this in the 7th grade, and we're moving excruciatingly slow because we talk a lot when we're doing this. So we're supposed to be doing this for 25 minutes and then 20 minutes for her civics. The intention was to move on to this Different Mirror book by Ronald Takaki. Hopefully I'm saying that right. She said that it read like a story, so she read through the entire book. So I would like to think that I may be able to listen to this on Audible like in the 2nd semester, but realistically I am thinking that after we are finished with Howard Zinn, I will, with a cup of coffee, you know, have her sit down and we will discuss what it is she read. Now what I may do is see if there are like some teacher notes or like summary notes on a Different Mirror, and go that route, so that while, you know, we're kind of discussing the book, you know, I will, you know, not be totally in the dark, right? So that's what our history looks like. So for math, we are sticking with Matthew C, and she is doing a pre-algebra. This has been her math spine since the 1st grade. This is what I use with all my kids, and it works pretty well. Last year, I briefly considered switching up her pre-algebra to something else because I was on the internet for too long and doubting if it would be rigorous enough for her as she was entering into the upper grades, even though we've had no issues thus far. But I am glad that I am happy with my decision to stick with pre-algebra with Matthew C, especially since this is what really, kind of wraps up the middle school years before she enters into high school and starts earning credits for her upper level math. So that was a little bit of a mistake on my part, so I'm glad that I stuck with Matthew C. So we have the student workbook, the instruction manual, tests book, and the DVD. We watched the DVD on a Sunday. Well, they watched the DVD, and I'm in the kitchen, which is one big open room. They're in the TV room. If it's going smoothly, they have no problem. They just watch the DVD. They're ready for the school week. If in the rare occasion that they don't understand, we will rewatch the DVD and then discuss, and then we're ready for the school week. Up until now, I usually have them do the student workbook and then use the test book as a form of review at the end of the school year. But for my eldest, in preparation for high school, just in case I decide to stick with this system, she is going to do her lesson in the student workbook, and when she's finished, then we are going to do the test. And in other words, we are going to follow it according to the teacher's guide or the setup that they have in here this year. And we've been doing it. She's finished with lesson 6, and the transition has been smooth, no problems thus far. Another thing is that up until now, this is one of the curriculums. As best as possible, I try to correct their work in the student workbook. I may miss some here or there, but this is one of the curriculums where I do go back and check their work. However, for her, the student workbook, only if she is struggling in an area am I going to go back in the student workbook and correct it. So for her, I am just going to focus on the test book, correcting it and grading it, and as I said, to get ready for high school. She has 45 minutes allotted for math, and that she will use the entire 45 minutes if it's a difficult lesson, and then wherever she's at, she will just stop at 45 minutes. But if it's a lesson where she's just doing math smoothly, having no problems, at 30 minutes, she just close off with math and move on to something else. So that's what we're doing for pre-algebra math. So financial literacy, she is going to be working through this workbook by Evermore for grades 6 to 8. She has expressed maybe taking an economics course in high school. So this, together with the Usborne Books for Beginners, Money, Business, and Economics that she has read through and has as resources here, will kind of help her get some of the basics down to kind of prepare for that. I think that some form of financial literacy is really important for them, especially as they're getting older, getting ready for the real world. This is something I most likely am going to start much earlier with my younger two. So this is what she's going to be working through. Now, economics, well, accounting and then economics, those used to be my favorite subjects when I was in A-levels. So this is also going to lend, the opportunity to have some interesting conversations with her as she's getting older, entering into those teenage years. Just something that we can kind of have, as an avenue to keep those conversations going. So anyway, so that is what she is going to be doing for financial literacy. All right, so that takes care of our main subject areas. Now, for a second language, we are maybe looking at Spanish for her. A couple of years ago, I did try to expose them to some other languages like Afrikaans and Japanese and Spanish. Not French. Did we do a little bit of French? But anyway, the point is that it didn't stick very much. So I didn't push it because they had so many other areas that they were interested in. But based on our district, she does need, a second language, since that's something that we are trying to follow. So to get her prepared for that, to kind of give her a little bit of exposure before she has to take it when the 9th grade comes around, God's spare, she's going to be using I'm going to be using a lot of free resources, as many free resources as I can. And how we're going to squeeze that in is mostly during our breaks. We are doing a 4 weeks on, 1 week off schedule this year, well, for the most part. So especially during those times, they're going to spend maybe 30, 45 minutes a day just watching, YouTube videos, going through whether it's Spanish numbers, Spanish alphabet, common phrases and stuff in Spanish. I did very, very, very basic Spanish in school, but so I can have extremely simple conversations with them, but nothing where I feel like I can teach the subject. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do to kind of help her get prepared for Spanish, and they're all going to be doing that together. So that's going to help my younger two, kind of get prepared for something like that later on, God's spare. And for electives, there's just a couple things that she has been doing over the years for fun that I realize as she is getting ready to get into those high school years, it's really going to help her, you know, get some credits, whether it's, you know, fulfill the district requirements, or to help her get electives in the subject area that she's actually interested in if she decides to go, you know, the college route. At this point, she wants to go down that route, but that may change. And, you know, we'll deal with that when that time comes. But anyway, so she has been drawing for a couple of years, so she'll be able to use that to help her, you know, with her visual arts credits. She has been coding for, you know, quite some time. So for computer programming, she made that a couple AP courses. It's something that she might be able to do, you know, later on in high school. So she's going to continue with both her drawing and her computer programming. And sewing is something that they actually have taken to. I have been trying to find some really basic follow along sewing projects for this to follow along, because even though I can sew a little bit, I realize that it just goes so much smoother if I am just a facilitator. I help them with basic things that they need that they may ask me when they're trying to do freehand projects, like when they were trying to figure out how to use the batting for their little bags, freehand bags that they were making, and pillows. I was there. I helped them with just showing them how to use different components with the sewing machine and help them stay safe so that they don't, you know, injure themselves. I find that to be a lot easier, but at the same time, you know, more realistic, because in my mind, I would think I have enough time to sit down and show them step by step, but in reality, that is just going to stress everybody else. It stress everybody out. But that's been going really well, and I actually got them a couple books on kid books on the topic. But anyway, so just some of the things that they do for fun, they're just going to continue with that for electives. And I'm saying they, even though I'm doing my 8th graders curriculum, because, you know, most times that kind of goes together. They all kind of do, and even if not to the same, you know, level or extent, they all kind of do more or less the same things at different levels. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. If you've watched this far, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. And I will talk to you in another video. Bye.